So, welcome to this episode of Menopause Conversations. My name's Amantha King. I'm a workplace menopause consultant and a menopause coach. I'm delighted to have my guest today, Sam Evans. Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm fine. Hi. Thank you for inviting me on your programme.
That's great. No, you're welcome. So, we've got a Samantha and an
Amantha.
Amantha. I mean,
No, I actually
got to,
said that to my
that's
husband.
that's got to be a first, hasn't it? So, Sam, could you just introduce yourself to people watching because they might not have come across you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Sam Evans. I'm the co-founder of online sex toy retailer Joe Divine with my husband Paul. I have a background in nursing. He comes from an IT background, and his idea was let's set up a sex toy company in 2007, as you do. So we only sell skin-safe sex toys and irritant-free sexual lubricants. And actually, through you setting up our website and using some of these products, it's actually transformed my intimate health and our sexual pleasure. And I'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
I'm a former nurse, as I've just said, and I work with lots of healthcare professionals in the NHS. We have a little brochure that they give out, which has got sex toys in it, lubricants, clitoral stimulators. And I give talks to healthcare professionals to help them feel confident talking to their patients about enjoying good sexual health and pleasure. I work with several cancer charities. I work predominantly within menopause. I was on Sex Myths and the Menopause with Davina McCall. I contributed to her book and to several menopause books, and I've sort of campaigned with the Make Menopause Matter campaign, set up by Diane Danzebrink, my lovely friend at Menopause Support. And I'm also the sexual health and pleasure expert for the Menopause Mandate, which was set up in Parliament by Carolyn Harris, who's an MP. So yeah, and I never stop talking about your intimate health and sexual pleasure, because I like sex, but my body hasn't always liked it.
So that's really interesting. And I love the way you just say it matter of fact, like you're doing the last three digits of your mobile phone number, because that is really where we need to get to, isn't it, Sam? Because there's so much of a veil over parts of the menopause conversation, and intimate pleasure health is still one of those areas, isn't it? So I mean, from your perspective, have we come far enough? Have we got still further to go in terms of moving these conversations on?
We have come a long way. I mean, I think I've contributed to it in the last 15 years as well. But unfortunately, we've still got doctors and healthcare professionals who struggle to talk about it. We've still got the press, censoring us, platforms, social media platforms, censoring the words that we use, even for our own body parts. And we've got this menopause industry that is bombarding our vulvas and vaginas with horrendous products just to cash in on vulnerable people. So people have no idea, they're confused, they don't know what lubricants to buy, they've never thought about using a sex toy. There are no lubricants for menopause, there are no sex toys for menopause. However, there are products that are better for you when you're going through perimenopause and menopause. But actually, all our lubes are designed for everybody, whatever your age. Our customer base is 18 to 93. I plan to be like our 93-year-old.
Amazing.
Amazing.
So we've had some guests on talking about the importance of pleasure and doing that solo. It's not always about penetrative sex. Talk to us about, so interesting that you and your husband are doing this together, which is amazing. I love that idea. Talk to us about why we should even be considering it as part of the menopause conversation, because we're bombarded with lots of big headlines about lots of big things. Even World Menopause Day, it's about cardiovascular health. What is so important in the conversation of menopause about that intimate health and how we pleasure ourselves? How does that contribute to us having a better menopause?
Because actually, when you hit perimenopause and menopause, for so many people, that is the time when your sexual health changes, and that impacts upon your sexual pleasure. So you start experiencing those, bit of vaginal dryness. You might get itchiness, stinging, burning. It might feel really sore. You might start getting a few bouts of thrush or bacterial vaginosis, whereby that's a fishy smelling discharge and you need antibiotics for it. You might notice you're getting a bit of cystitis after sex, or you've started getting recurrent UTIs. And all this impacts upon your sexual health and pleasure, because it puts you off wanting to have sex. And actually, people think there's something wrong with their bodies. because they don't understand actually our hormones, you know, impact upon our ability to, you know, lubricate our vaginas naturally, you know, and to protect our urethras and our bladders from cystitis and urinary tract infections, and to keep the pH balanced so that we don't get thrush and bacterial vaginosis. So I think I've spoken to, you know, women, business women, and go, what's this vaginal dryness? You know, we always whisper, don't we, Ala Miranda? And it's like, you know, it's almost like they've never had to use lube, you know, because they've always managed to lubricate naturally, and that's absolutely fine. And also they think that they're no longer being turned on, or their partner thinks they're no longer turning on their partner. So then that causes conflict. And it's actually, no, this is a natural thing, because your natural lubrication is impacted whatever your age, really. You know, I know sort of around your menstrual cycle, you're going to be drier at certain weeks of your menstrual cycle. You know, anxiety, stress, breastfeeding, you know, enough midwives are not telling their patients to, you know, you need to invest in a good sexual lubricant when you're breastfeeding, which my GP had told me. You know, cancer treatment, sexual side effects to medication. So the simplest thing, antihistamines. You know, hay fever season, I take an antihistamine because I get itchy skin. That's formication, one of my symptoms, but much better taking when I'm taking HRT. But, you know, antihistamines, how many people take antihistamines? Yeah, and a lot of people in menopause use antihistamines, but also, you know, antidepressants, you know, even some cold medication and things like that. So people are suddenly go, I'm a bit dry, and they don't know what to use. So they might reach something from the kitchen and bathroom cupboard. Please don't, unless it's actually something like Sutil or Yes lubricants. You know, or they might then just pop along to the supermarket or the chemist and grab something off the shelf, well-known brands, all full of irritating ingredients, which they then use. They then find that they cause irritation or stinging, or they might get thrush afterwards. That then puts them off using a lubricant. So that's really what happens in midlife. And I don't think people are educated enough to understand why we need estrogen to keep our whole genitourinary system happy and healthy.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Well, I'm one of those people, because as we know, something called histamine intolerance definitely much on the increase, and people are having to take stronger and stronger, in fact often but prescription only type antihistamines, which are just so drying. And I was one of those people who didn't realize that, because we're talking about membranes, and you know, it's not just the membrane in your nose.
No, exactly.
It's all of those
dries up, you know, dries up the tissues of your vulva and vagina.
Yeah.
You no longer produce your own natural lubrication. I take fexofenadine for my itchy skin. I don't need it very often. It is available over the counter now, but it was only available on prescription. It is really strong. But you know, this is why I say to people, if you're taking those regular antihistamines, you need to be using a good lube.
Definitely. So. And I hear, I mean, a little bit confrontational possibly, or contentious maybe. So there's a lot of products, aren't there? You know, there's a popularity to put a pink tick by things and stick a menopause word in front of it. I'm glad you rolled your eyes before I did. That's not helpful, is it, Sam? Is that helpful to consumers?
No, not at all. And also, they often charge 3 times the price. But these products are flooding the market, and I've been informed by one of our manufacturers, actually there's going to be even more next year. So they're all targeting our vulvas and our vaginas. And actually, my advice to people is be an ingredients detective. You know, if it's got menopause on it, ignore it. It's like skincare products. You know, I came across, recently, haven't we had menopause chocolate?
Oh, I know. That got right up my nose.
Apparently, you said you'd have to eat 2/3 of the bar of chocolate to get the benefits from the almond. She said, so just eat your own chocolate and a handful of almonds. It was like, you know, and menopause soup. You know, we've had people trying to flog menopause sex toys. There aren't any menopause sex, or we're making this for menopause. Well, why would it be different to any other sex toy? Because we're still enjoying pleasure in the same way. Yes, there are some toys that actually can help you with some of your, you know, your sexual health issues. But I get so frustrated, and brands jumping on the bandwagon every week. Somebody sends me a link, or I see something, or we get an email. This would be great for your website. Well, clearly you don't understand that we would never touch your product with a barge pole, because it contains these irritating ingredients. And a lot of these brands, they don't care. They don't care. So why, you know, and also we have products on prescription as well that contain irritating ingredients, you know, but doctors are still prescribing them, and it's really frustrating, you know. So slowly more people are aware of ingredients, and they're telling their friends, which is great. But you know, not enough people, which is why these products fly off the shelves. in the supermarket and the high
Well,
street.
well, this is it. And so it's that educational piece, isn't it? Because actually, we know that our vulva, our vagina is self-cleaning anyway. It doesn't need anything that smells of strawberries or whatever other fragrance you might be tempted to put down there. So can we educate and help educate people a little bit about what's the difference between a lubricant and a moisturizer?
Okay. So moisturizer it's longer lasting. You use it sort of every 3 days. I use the Yes vaginal moisturizer here.
Yes.
We sell that at Joe Divine. It comes in little applicators like this too, so you can either pop one of those up sort of a couple of times a week, or you can pop it in a lube tube, fill that up. And basically a moisturizer is longer lasting, so it's ideal. It lasts for 3 to 4 days, and it's got bio adhesive, so it sort of sticks to the walls of the vagina. Like you moisturize your face every night, you should be moisturizing your vulva and vagina. So I always pop mine in last thing after I've had my last wee, jump in before I go into bed, pop it in, jump into bed. If anything runs out, I can just rub it into my vulva, and that just keeps it moisturized. I mean, I do use Sutil Luxe to moisturize, but Sutil Luxe is also a lubricant too. So that's a moisturizer. Then lubricants, so they come in different formulations. So you've got water-based, which is closest to your own body's natural lubrication. Unfortunately, the vast majority of water-based lubricants contain many irritating ingredients that do far more harm than good. So then we've got oil-based lubricants. I'm not talking about olive oil. I'm talking about things like the Yes oil base, which we also sell, which saved our sex life in, when my husband and I set up the company, because I'd had so many problems. And then you've got silicone lubes. I don't generally recommend silicone lubes in perimenopause and menopause, because I feel like you need a lube that's going to nourish those tissues to keep them happy and healthy. Silicone lube will just sit on the tissues. It's a lot of people like it. It's very, very slippery. We sell one brand, ID Velvet, but you can't use it with silicone sex toys because it will damage the material of the silicone. But you can use it with glass, metal, ABS plastic toys. So they're skin safe materials, but silicone's fine. It's not going to cause any problems. So going back to the water-based lubes, the ingredients that you need to be looking out for on those labels, and be aware that some brands don't list all the ingredients, or they'll be using different words. So if you don't know what an ingredient is, please Google it, because you'll probably find it's one of the culprits that you should be avoiding.
Okay.
So the first ingredient to avoid is glycerin. This creates a sugary environment inside the vagina, and that encourages thrush to thrive. That's what destroyed my intimate health and our sex life in my 20s and 30s, because I was using Durex and KY lubes because I was on the pill. Again, that causes vaginal dryness, so that's why we were using a lube. But I had no idea. I kept getting recurrent infections, and that in turn led to vaginismus. The pelvic floor muscles tighten, it makes sex painful. Got a diagnosis at 30, I'd never heard of it, trained as a nurse. But it wasn't until we set up Joe Divine and started using the Yes oil-based lubricant within a week. I remember saying to Paul, I haven't had any irritation, I haven't any problems. Started looking at ingredients and going, so glycerin, massive problem. It also makes a lube really sticky. And there are a couple of products on prescription that got glycerin in them. Propylene glycol. This is often the ingredients that causes the stinging when you first put it on. So that actually puts couples off from using it. They go, they think all lubes are the same. I've tried so many different types of lubes and it's always called itching or stinging. And partners with a penis will say, oh, that stung. It's not just those of us with the vulva and the vagina. And again, be aware that there might be a different description for that ingredient. Parabens, so these are preservatives. They are weak hormone disruptors, so they are being removed from quite a lot of skincare and body care products. So why would you want to put them inside your vagina or your anus, for that matter, if you're having anal play? Again, they cause irritation. Dyes, because everybody needs a bright pink vulva, don't they? Again, an irritant. Perfume, as you said, no one needs to smell of strawberries or vanilla or anything like that. Alcohol, we know that's drying in skincare products, so why would you want to put it inside your vagina? We've got sorbitol. Again, that's another one that gets put on descriptions, but it's the same as glycerin. So again, be aware of that. And the latest ones to come to market are CBD lubes.
Okay.
So CBD could do what everybody claims it could do. We would not need an NHS. But We don't have any clinical evidence-based research as to what CBD does to the microbiome of the vagina. So that's your natural environment inside your vagina. It's all anecdotal. People say there are CBD tampons, a CBD lube. Obviously, people ingest it, rub it on their skin, but that's different to putting it actually inside your vagina. And actually, people say, oh, it helps with period pain, endometrial pain. But actually, we don't know what it's doing. And also the base carrier lubricant that the CBD oil is in often contains those irritating ingredients. So we've had brands contact us going, oh, brand will be fantastic for you. And you're going, well, actually, where's the evidence? And they don't have any evidence. So until I see the research, then I'm certainly not going to be recommending it. But there are so many terrible products coming to market now with terrible ingredients. So please do your research and just don't ignore if it says doctor recommended, as well-known brands like KY have got on them. That, yeah, for medical intervention, they were never recommended for sexual pleasure. That's what KY was invented for your skin test and your examinations and things like that. So yeah.
So I'm imagining if people come to your website, there's going to be a huge amount of information that people can relate to, can't they? Because that's what's important. So just remind people what your website is now, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, it's called jodivine.com, and we've got hundreds of articles on our blog, but particularly in the sexual health category, I've written the vast majority of them. I mean, our blog goes from cancer to kink. It's for people of all ages. Try to be inclusive as much as possible. You know, a lot of our products are gender neutral, but we're trying to help people, you know, anybody, whatever their age, gender, sexual orientation, health condition or disability. Because if you want to enjoy pleasurable sex, there's no reason why you shouldn't. But it's really important that you use skin-safe sex toys. So that's really important. And irritant-free sexual lubricants. And my whole Instagram is Sam Talk Sex. And I never shut up about why ingredients matter when it comes to your intimate health and sexual pleasure. Because my own sex, my own intimate health, you know, destroyed by KY and Durex lubes. I had no idea. I kept went back and forth to the doctors, cystitis and UTIs, thrush, bacterial vaginosis. I was a renal nurse at the time. I thought I was going into renal failure. Not one doctor ever asked me about my sex life, even what was I washing myself with, because obviously we know there's lots of intimate washes. And at that time, there weren't that many. And every time you needed Canesten, you had to get a prescription. It wasn't available over the counter. So I must have had this record of all these antibiotics and Canesten prescriptions. Then finally, one obstetrician at the local hospital, no longer my obstetrician, he said, oh, iron the gusset of your knickers to kill the thrush bugs. That was his advice. I went privately to see him.
Oh my goodness.
And that was the only advice he gave
shocking.
me. And it's really strange because this little brochure was created at our local hospital in the gynecology department with a fantastic doctor called Dr. Alex Slack. Oh, I love his name because he's a gynecologist.
Yeah, brilliant.
And the women's health physio, Pip. And it's given out by him and the physio, and there's about 14 different gynecologists there. But it's, you know, this attitude, and it's sort of like, you know, what does it matter? I've had doctors say, well, aren't all lubes are the same? But the fact is they don't ever investigate, why are you getting those recurrent infections? I was talking to a sexual health doctor the other day, and she said, yeah, she's one woman I was talking to, she said she gets them every month. She says, oh yeah, I use Canesten every month. She says, well, you shouldn't be using Canesten every month. What's going on here? Let's investigate it. But the problem is we just take it for granted. And also people get an itch, they can buy it over the counter, they treat themselves, it doesn't go away. Well, if you've got that itch or that discharge or it's sore and it's not going away with Canesten, then get swabbed, because it could be something else, like a genital skin condition like lichen sclerosis or lichen planus, which requires topical steroids. And that's really important, you get that checked. So, you know, and also what do people do? Oh, they go and grab an intimate wash off the shelf.
I know.
No one needs an intimate wash. Bath bombs, I call them thrush bombs. There's an article on the website. They're vile little things. Bubble baths, shower gels. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day, and she said she didn't realise for years she was washing her hair in the bath and she was getting thrush, and she didn't realise she was smoking. A lot of people do that.
Of course, and the natural opening of our anatomy.
Yeah.
You know, if you're properly relaxing,
Yeah.
things are
It's
going
all
to.
warm and it's
Yeah.
all perfused. All the blood flow is perfusing because of the warmth of the water. And also, a lot of shampoos have sodium lauryl sulfate in them, which is so well known for drying out the skin. So, you know, it's again people not really thinking about what they're doing. But the problem is the intimate hygiene industry was created for a problem that doesn't exist, our smelly vaginas. And it has actually caused so many problems, which is why Caniston are cashing in, which I've bought shares in it. I've bought so many of them.
Yeah.
And you know, and these people bringing their treatments to market, you know, we've got lube brands that contain irritating ingredients and they then got a treatment for bacterial vaginosis and thrush, but their lube is going to give you those, so you get stuck in this cycle. And people, you know, microbiome tests and all this thing. Well, if these products didn't exist, people wouldn't buy them.
Well, this is it. And just on that point, so I was that person who, so I've been perimenopausal since I was 36. I just turned 52. I think this is my year to become postmenopausal. And so, I mean, ibuprofen and Caniston were my go-to for more than a decade. But what I realised this year, and it was thankfully due to my sexual health clinic here in North Devon, because we don't have a menopause specialist in the whole county,
Not yet.
just saying. And it was amazing because I just presented and I said, listen, I'm using Caniston, it's not working. And so I went through all the symptoms, and of course we know the discharge, what it looks like, all the rest of it. And she was amazing, this lady. She said, I don't think it's that. And in fact, there's not, this condition that I'm about to say is not as well known, but I think it is highly prevalent. It's called cytolytic vaginosis. And cytolytic vaginosis is actually lactobacilli overgrowth. And what has happened, what happens, and I've actually got pH strips because I'm a biochemist, Sam, at heart, so I'm constantly experimenting. So I actually bought some vaginal pH strips, and actually you can see how dramatically the vaginal pH changes. And actually, if you have high doses of estrogen and you don't have enough progesterone, what happens is your lactobacilli go nuts, quite literally, and they will produce an irritating acidic discharge. And that's what it is. But people are going, like you say, getting another one over the counter, self-medicating. But actually all you're doing is creating an environment in which E. coli is more likely to flourish, and then you're in that whole realm, like you said, of urinary tract infection. So one of the things, and I'm not sure where I sit on this, I think I'm more anti it, but a lot of people talk about coconut oil as well. Do you have a view on coconut oil? Because I do.
Yeah, I've written an article about coconut oil. I would never use it.
No, I wouldn't either, because actually when you look at the pH of coconut oil, it's taking your vaginal microbiome in the wrong direction. So this is, and I have heard people actually advocate coconut oil, but I think this comes back to you were saying, you need to know what you're doing.
Loads of doctors advocate, and I find it really, leading doctors, I find it really frustrating. You know, if you find coconut oil works for you, that's fine. Remember, it will destroy latex condoms if you're using them, and anything oil-based will hang around inside the vagina and the anus for up to 24 hours. So if you're then using latex condoms the next day, it can destroy them. And things like polyurethane condoms aren't quite as thick. So, you know, and vegan condoms, again, the protection of them. So, you know, you have to think, coconut oil, I always say 100% organic, pure, in a tube, not a pot, not the pot from the use for your cooking. So you're dipping your fingers in and out. That's lovely cross-contamination. And make sure it's ethically farmed, not by monkeys on chains. But quite frankly, I would tell people don't use it.
No.
You know, and I get frustrated when these doctors go, oh no, it's because it's cheap. This view that you always have to use something cheap inside your vagina, which is one of the most highly absorbent and delicate parts of the body. Women spend hundreds of pounds on pots of moisturisers for their face. It's kind of like, why can't you spend a few more pounds on a decent lubricant for your vagina or a moisturiser?
Well, that's so true, isn't it? Because it's like sunscreen, isn't it? We all know now the benefits of getting good quality sunscreen. So you don't scrimp on that, you know, because we know the benefits. So like you say, why would we dream of doing that anywhere else? So let's talk a little bit about libido then. So and it's really lovely that you're so open. I know you're so brilliant at it, sort of talking about your own situation. But, you know, at what point should we be encouraging people to address their libido issues, and how can they do that? Because we know that so many people don't even want to get into that conversation, you know, when the doctor says, is there anything else, or, you know, it's like, oh, I'm just not going to go there. Can you give us some words of encouragement as to at what point should we be addressing that conversation, either with ourselves or with our partners, and what can we do going forward?
I think that there are two different types of libido. So there's the libido where basically life gets in the way, and that affects the vast majority of us. I've been there midlife, you know, in my mid-40s. My husband would say, well, you're in the bedroom. You're not in the bedroom. Where are you? You know, we'd be playing together, too busy thinking about the dishwasher, the kids' packed lunches, you know. And actually, once I got myself back into the room and was present and was enjoying all those pleasurable sensations, because when I have sex, it makes me feel so much better and happier. It's just getting into it. So a lot of people, the busy life, you know, kids, elderly parents, top of your career, stress, maybe money worries, your partner's stressed out, you know, you might be having a few sexual health issues, vaginal dryness, your partner might be having erectile difficulties if, you know, you're married to a man, and you know, all these things get in the way, and sex goes to the bottom of the pile, and there's nothing sexy or pleasurable. You're not going to feel aroused. You're not going to have that boost of libido. It's those people whom they've lost the joy. It's almost like they've lost their joie de vivre. Literally nothing is, they feel like they're numb. I often hear women, you know, I'm on the expert for a couple of Facebook groups, and I see comments when they go, I'm numb from the waist down, and that always makes me feel very sad. And those people, I feel like they're the ones, you know, who need to talk to their doctor, because it could be that they're not on hormone replacement therapy, and that actually could help. We know that testosterone can help some people. I was on it for a year. I stopped it several months ago because I didn't like the side effects. I was getting whiskers on my chin and rage, and yeah, it just wasn't really making me feel better. It did initially. It gave me that sort of bump to, you know, and then I started doing weight training and resistance training with fantastic Sam Palmer, a midlife makeover, and I've been doing that for a year now. And I think that's actually made such a difference. So I've ditched the testosterone, and people think it's a quick fix. The problem is it's not a quick fix if you're only using that, if you're not actually looking at everything else in your life. So if you're not looking at your stress levels, if you're not looking at, you know, all the demands from your kids, that some people can still have small children because, you know, they've gone into menopause early. You know, teenagers know how hard that is. Our kids are grown up, but they're still your children. You know, my father-in-law's in a dementia care home. That brings with it its own, you know, stresses and strains. And also running your business or being at the top of your game. You know, a lot of people, you know, are top of their profession. So I think, and if you're not looking at, you know, eating healthily and exercising, you know, cutting down on smoking, drinking, obviously, you know, when you feel stressed out, you're going to drink, that impacts upon your libido too. I mean, especially obviously smoking, it's going to impact upon everything, you know. But I do think it's those women where they've lost, when they say, I have this numbness. And that, you know, people fall out of love with their partners too, you know. And it's the same for men. Men go through, you know, a menopause, you know, they have a decrease in their testosterone. They can end up with erectile difficulties, you know, which could be caused by heart disease, diabetes, prostate health issues, but generally stress, smoking, drinking, anxiety, you know, not eating healthily, not exercising. So and also, again, they find that difficult to talk about. So I think when we look at libido, I think a lot of people they never take the time for themselves and their partner, and they find it hard to talk to their partner as well. And it might be that their partner will say, well, actually, I've really been struggling too. You know, you often can open up that conversation. So, you know, there's articles on the website. I've done little videos on my Instagram feed. But, you know, if you feel like that is you, then go and talk to your doctor, because it may be that, yes, hormone replacement therapy or alternatives, there may be natural alternatives if you can't take it or if you don't want to take it. But it's actually, you know, I think, you know, I'm talking about those women who really feel numb. I mean, and also remember, there are plenty of women who are quite happy to give up on their sex life in menopause because they maybe haven't had a very good sex life. It's never been very pleasurable. But I talk to a lot of people for whom it's like they grieve. It's like a bereavement, and they go, what's happened? I had such a good sex life, what's going on now? I really miss it. I miss that intimacy with my partner. You know, and also we advise a lot of people in new relationships, so they actually haven't had sex for quite a long time. They might have, you know, the partner might have died, they may be divorced or separated, they're in a new relationship, they go to have sex, oh, and it's all painful, you know. So then they're looking to buy lubes and maybe a slim sex toy to help them, you know, enjoy pleasurable sex. You know, so that's really important. And also same-sex couples, you know, you could have one woman might have, yeah, a myriad of symptoms, and her partner might have the other myriad of symptoms. So between the two of them, they could actually have all the menopausal symptoms that are out there. So, you know, that's hard too. It's, you know, so it's important to talk to your partner and not think that there's something wrong. This is what happens, and not everybody's going to go through it. And I think the other thing to remember, a lot of people think, oh, I've sailed through menopause. I've had friends who say, oh, I don't need anything. And then they start listing all these things going on. They're going, well, that's menopausal. Yeah, that's menopausal. But they become postmenopausal, you know, never had a issue. Suddenly they're hit with the vaginal atrophy and the vaginal dryness and the infections. And actually it catches them off guard as well. So that's another issue too, that some people have. And obviously all that's going to impact upon your libido. If sex feels painful, it's not pleasurable. So it's not going to make you aroused.
Well, exactly, and I particularly resonate with the point about the same-sex couples, because we know obviously rates of separation and divorce are actually highest in same-sex couple groups, and you know, again, it's that narrative, isn't it, about that the time that we're in, particularly if we're in menopause, you know, where our fertility is declining. You know, that's no longer maybe the main focus of the human body, and so it's natural. So we want people to feel comfortable talking about where they're at, where they'd like to be, what their aspirations are. So, you know, normalizing it. I mean, if I just ask you a question about culturally, what do you notice in your experience, Sam, about the cultural differences when we talk about this topic? Because
culturally, initially going back to lubes, talk about the coconut oil. That's used widely within certain cultural groups, but also, you know, you often find, I've advised quite a lot of young women who've got vaginismus, the pelvic floor muscles tighten, from different ethnic groups, because the lack of sex education. And we work with a lot of psychosexual therapists, and one in particular, she worked in the Leicester area, and she said, so predominantly she actually started seeing young men because they weren't educated either, and they wanted to please their partner, you know. So again, within the, and also the most basic is the language. So the fantastic Neelam Hira, who runs Sisters, she was saying there aren't even these words in Punjabi, you know, for gynecology and your body parts. You know, Dr. Night Arif, she has translated things into different languages, which is great. And Joe's Trust, the cervical screening charity, cancer charity, they've got different information in different languages as well. But if those words don't even exist in your own culture, then you know, and it's funny. I do remember watching a program on telly. It was about about a young girl, Jewish girl, getting married, and actually she had vaginismus, and she was presented actually with the dilator kit that we sell. I remember saying to myself, "Oh, it's the inside kit." But it was interesting because it got me thinking, well, actually, yes, where is the sex education there again within those groups? And obviously, some, you know, Jewish groups are quite strict. So, you know, it's actually what is being taught. And also, I've had women enduring painful sex because it is their duty. You know, and that always really, really upsets me. But I think that's slowly changing, and certainly amongst younger people within different ethnic groups. But we've got a long way to go, because, you know, I work with a couple of groups, you know, predominantly sort of Black and the BAME communities, and, you know, their experience will be different from me, white middle class woman, you know, very different. And where are they getting their information from? So it's important. These groups are just brilliant, that, you know, and there are some fantastic campaigners out there like Karen Arthur who are doing such brilliant work, but we have to make sure we include everybody. So,
well, that's so important. So I feel really privileged in that I'm I'm working with Professor Joyce Harper from University College London, who she's actually taking on the great mantle of writing a national menopause support and education program. And that's exactly one of the things that we spoke about, because actually it's about making it accessible for all, because so much of this culturally is behind a veil. I spotted a great Instagram account actually yesterday called Asian Supernovas, who are talking about breast cancer.
Yeah.
And my goodness, it is a wonderful campaign. I mean, I'm half Sri Lankan and I understand the complexities of talking about some of these things, because it's just not culturally something that people do. So to be even talking about the breast as part of the anatomy and also our vulvas, it's going to be huge. And I think that's what we need if we're going to create that equity in society, that everyone has an equal share of accessing the right supports at the right time so they can get the help they need. So that's really, really helpful. So if I had one more question to ask you right now, Sam, Joe Devine, see what I did there. Sam, what would be the question that I should ask you that will be most impactful for people watching this now? What questions should I ask you that I haven't already asked you?
You would just ask me, how can people enjoy good sexual health and pleasure?
Great, answer that one then.
Okay, I mean, one thing we haven't talked about is sex toys.
No.
But obviously using a sex toy promotes the blood flow to the tissues of the vulva and vagina. That promotes your natural lubrication. It feels pleasurable. You know, our toys can help people overcome sexual health issues, you know, post-hysterectomy, cancer, you know, pelvic pain issues. So, but also using a sex toy can help if you've got decreased sensation, because that actually happens in menopause too.
Yeah.
And you may find that you're taking longer to, you know, to orgasm, or you're just not reaching orgasm. So those toys are great to use on your own. Oh God, you know, orgasms are so good for you because they help you relax, they reduce your stress, they boost your immunity, they help you sleep, which is obviously a big problem. You know, and help with pain. And for men as well, regular ejaculation, you know, reduces your risk of prostate cancer because it flushes out the prostate gland. But this is really important, is that you incorporate a good sexual lubricant into your sex play on your own or with a partner. You know, you use a good vaginal moisturizer. We haven't talked about vaginal estrogen, but that, you know, I'm not a menopause expert, but that's something that I use, the little pessaries 3 times a week. Go to your GP. That can transform your in your whole genitourinary health. And people can have that. Even some people who've gone through breast cancer, we've now got a new sort of consensus has come out in the last few weeks, actually, from Matt Millen, from the CMO there, Dr. Richard Simcock, you know, that actually vaginal estrogen is safe for the vast majority of people going through breast cancer. And Dr. Alison Macbeth is just brilliant, and she recommends it to all her patients. So it's just brilliant. So vaginal estrogen, good vaginal moisturizer, good sexual lubricant, get yourself a simple sex toy, and only washable with water, and have regular orgasms.
Yeah.
You know, sex is good for you. It's meant to be noisy, embarrassing, you know, consensual, messy, pleasurable, but most of all fun, whether you're doing it on your own or with a partner. So, or two, whatever you're doing, it's really, really important. And it's good for you. It's good for your physical and mental well-being, and it's good for the connection within a relationship as well. Doctors across the country and all the healthcare professionals I'm working with, they said they would prescribe it if they could. So the next best thing they can do is say, go to this company and get one of those toys, and they'll whip a toy out and they'll say, have you thought about using a sex toy? Which lubricants are you using? And it's so proactive. And it's not just in perimenopause and menopause, it's across the board for so many gynecological and reproductive issues that, you know, many of us face as well. And again, within the transgender community, we, you know, queer menopause, I just want to give a quick shout out, brilliant, you know, and they're doing such good work. So we have to make sure that, as you say, we've got to include everybody. No one's left behind. So.
Exactly, not on our watch, not on our watch.
No.
So, and that's really important. In fact, I saw another program again. I mean, maybe people won't connect this, but often prolapse can be an experience for people going through menopause transition, and that can feel like you're not completely evacuating your bowel. And actually, I watched an amazing video this week showing how actually inserting your fingers, actually massaging the tissues, actually putting pressure in the appropriate places, reminding the muscles how they can work, actually can help people in terms of having that better health all round. So
definitely. I mean, the other thing is pelvic health physios, you know,
yes.
don't bother with all these gadgets. Yes, I know we sell some pelvic floor exercises, but you know, we work with so many brilliant pelvic health physios. They are my go-to healthcare professionals, you know, they and psychosexual therapists, you know, and I always say to people, just book one appointment. It's worth spending the money on that rather than buying your gadget that you saw in the Daily Mail or something that is actually going to be so ineffective. That physio will teach you how to do your pelvic floor muscle exercises properly. And also remember, some people, you know, yes, we're all told to tighten them, but some people have tight pelvic floor.
Too much.
So that makes sex painful, like mine when I had vaginismus.
Yeah.
So they need to learn to relax them. The same with prolapse, you know, when you have a hysterectomy or childbirth, the bulges, you know, sort of that happen in the vagina, you feel like you've got extensive fullness, you feel like your vagina is dropping out. Again, silicone pessaries that could be fitted by a physio, you know, they actually can hold the prolapse in place, and there's different shapes and sizes for different types of prolapse as well. And as you said, I saw a really good video on Instagram the other day actually of showing how when you do have a poo and how it would normally come out, and then this and how it gathers in the wall.
I think it's the same video. I think it's the same video.
It was brilliant. You know, the pelvic health physios actually on Instagram, some of them are doing such brilliant demonstrations, and they are my go-to people, because they are the first people that I will suggest to somebody when they're telling me, you know, I want to buy the dilators. I'm going, well, have you seen a pelvic health physio? Well, no. Well, before you buy them, you really need to talk to a physio, because a physio will recommend our dilators, you know, and some of our sex toys, and give out the health brochure. But you know, it's really important that you are actually examined.
Yes.
And just quickly talking about examination, a lot of doctors are not examining their patients. So if you have got those vulval skin issues, you do need to be examined. Don't just let your doctor write another prescription. You know, the tissues need to be examined so they can actually have a look and see what is actually going on. And quickly also, with vaginal atrophy, where the tissues shrink and it becomes sore, it's only because somebody contacted me this week and she was saying, you know, I've got this discharge, I'm always wet. Now, a lot of women think they don't have a problem with vaginal dryness because they constantly feel wet, but actually with vaginal atrophy you do get a watery sort of greyish yellowish discharge. Obviously any discharge you really need to have checked out because it could be an infection, but that is a symptom of vaginal atrophy. So they assume, oh, I don't have a problem with vaginal dryness, but they have actually got vaginal atrophy, and using vaginal estrogen and good moisturisers and lube can really help. So again, it's something, you know, that it's sort of making people aware, well, actually it's not your natural lubrication, it's a discharge being caused by the fact that the estrogen levels are dropping inside your vulva and vagina and your bladder and urethra, and it's actually creating this symptom. So it's another thing.
And I really like that. I appreciate you saying that, because I think one of the things I most commonly say each week to the people that I'm speaking with is that things will constantly change. So what's your normal this week may not be your normal next week. And, you know, we must always remember we'll always have access to a small amount of our hormones, but they're affected by stress. So, you know, if you're going through a stressful period, we've got Christmas coming up, you know, there's a bit of a lag time, isn't there, Sam, in that, you know, your symptoms might be all just perfectly catastrophic all around the week of Christmas. So it's important that we're always willing and curious to know that things could change. And that's why it's so powerful to have people like yourselves talking about it. And, you know, how many people out there know there's a pelvic physiotherapist? Maybe most people don't even know that person exists.
No, they don't. And actually a lot of healthcare professionals don't, and a lot of doctors don't refer their patients to them, but they are absolutely brilliant. We don't have enough of them, you know, but they should be your go-to person. And you know, and actually I had people say to me, oh, thank God you actually told me about that physio, because it's made such a difference. And you talk about as well, again, eating and drinking all those rich foods and drinking alcohol, you know, for me, you know, sort of if I have a glass of Prosecco, I can end up with sort of, you know, a bit of irritation or something. So just being aware of that, and also, yes, let's face it, the stress of it as well. So really helpful. So it is funny because come January, we always have an influx of requests and messages because everybody wants to get happy and healthy, and they've come through the sort of winter and the Christmas season as well. So it's great because they just want to, oh, what should I be using? So, you know, there's loads of practical information on the website, and there's also links to resources, people, websites that we work with that I'm happy to recommend people that I work with, you know, and I rely upon, and I know they're reliable people too. So, you know, when you come to me, you might just want to buy a tube of lube. You might go away with your tube of lube, but a physio recommendation, psychosexual therapy, a website here, that book there is really good. Oh, and that video, and follow that person on Instagram. So it's very holistic.
That's lovely. I love that. I'm the same, Sam, because I think, and I even put a post on Instagram last night saying, I do think the menopause community is fantastic, because people, you know, I think sometimes it gets a bad rap, but I do find the menopause community, I'm fairly new to it on Instagram, but I find that they are a really supportive crowd. And so that's wonderful. So I think the take home message is, you know what a great place to go will be joedivine.com. Go take a look and take a browse around there, and actually really prioritize your pleasure, prioritize your self-care, your intimate health. It's really important. And know what that area of your body looks like, because I meet so many people who say, oh, I'm even frightened to have a look.
No. And it shrinks. Mine's shrunk. It changes shape. You know, and if you know you're normal, then you'll know when you can spot something when it's abnormal and it doesn't feel quite right. We all know our own bodies. If you actually, you know, a lot of us do, which is why when we go and advocate for ourselves with the GP, and I know not all GPs are great, they are under a lot of stress. I'm lucky I've got pretty good GPs. But, you know, you can advocate for yourself and say, well, actually, no, this doesn't feel right for me. You know, could you actually have a look? Please, could you actually examine me and make sure that, you know, there's nothing going on? And often, most of the time, the doctor's just there to reassure you, no, that's normal. Because also a lot of people worry about things that are normal. You know, so when I always say to people, you know, sort of, you know, well, that actually is normal. It's like, you know, they worry about discharge and all sorts of things, but it's like, well, if you don't understand your body, but you know, if you think that that's not normal for me, I think that's the most important.
That's a great way of putting it. That's a really great way of putting it. And so tell us, what is, just one last time, what is your handle on Instagram?
So it's Sam Talk Sex on Instagram and Twitter. It's joe.divine on Instagram, Joe Divine UK on Twitter. We have a Facebook page, though I don't always monitor that all the time. And it's joedivine.com, just to say your internet providers and phone providers automatically put in adult filters in place. So you may find that you're blocked, because obviously we're 18 plus, we sell sex toys. So you can actually remove those yourself or ask your internet provider to remove them. And if you're struggling, just give us a call and we can help you. We've got an article which actually can talk you through on what you can do. And if you can't even get on the website, we actually have a main Joe Divine catalogue here that we can post out to you. It doesn't have everything on the website, and I can post out the health brochure too. There is a link to the article on the website as well. And if you go onto my Instagram, you'll see me talking about all this stuff too, so you have an idea of the products that I'm talking about. But you should be able to get onto the website. I'm just saying that because we know that these adult filters do block people, and people really realise that they've been automatically put in place, but this is what's happening, and has been going on for a long time actually. So I'm always happy to talk to you on the phone. All calls are confidential. Only Paul and I answer those calls. You know, we're a husband and wife team. Only Paul and I see the emails, the customer service email. So send us an email at customer service. Send me a DM on Instagram, either to Joe Divine or to Sam Talk Sex. You know, and I will try to help you, because if you want to enjoy great sex, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to.
Oh, that's really lovely and really reassuring for people. So I'll ask Sam to put all her details and socials, and we'll drop those into the show notes. But for me to you, thank you so much for giving your time and talking so articulately, simply, reassuringly, for people who might just be thinking, do you know what? I think that's me. I think that person or that website could help me. So thank you so much for your time, and thanks for doing this with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome.